Okay, welcome to the Almond Fantasy Football League. This is the 2024-2025 season, and this is episode 1, recap of the draft and recap of week 1. Just combine it all together. So just a recap of the draft, we had a good time. It's a ton of fun. This is the first time in, I don't even know if it ever happened before, that everybody on the island was in person. So it was awesome to see everybody and hang out. Had some good food. Only Mike wasn't around. He was in New York, but he was tied in, so he was definitely live and not on auto pick. So it was good to see everybody turn out. We ate a bunch of Korean food. Brad, as usual, brings that smoked stuff, the smoked burnt ends, the Korean style. Made it up. It was good. And then we had some drinks. We bought beer, seltzers, and made some cocktails. So it was a lot of fun. And then the draft was fast. It was pretty fast, and it was interesting. I guess the way we can play it out is good running backs went fast, and then wide receivers were falling, and then we got our draft grades too, but as you know, it usually doesn't reflect how it is. As far as the drink of the day, so after that draft party, the next day we decided to go on keto. So we are not eating any carbs. We're just increasing the fat content and the protein, trying to lose some weight and make sure we don't get diabetes. So I can't really do sugary drinks, and at the same time too, I'm also like just cutting out alcohol. I've been cutting out alcohol for a while now. But we start making drinks. As you can see, I just made a coffee drink. This is a almond milk macchiato. So there was a ton of foam, so it just came with it. So at least we'll be hopped up on caffeine, if anything. I'm gonna have a white mustache. Good stuff. All right, let's get into the weeks, and we'll kind of get an idea about the draft as well, based on everyone, because there was really not a whole. There was the draft, and then there was some minor movements, but nothing super major prior to week 1. But let's just go. Let's run it. We're running back to front. X marks the spot versus James swag team. So Mike L versus James. I liked your draft, Mike. This is kind of like something that I would do a bunch. Like Richardson was my QB1 last year. He just got hurt. And then you went with all of these rookie wide receivers. Worthy, Marvin Harrison Jr. That's definitely something out of my playbook. Worthy showed out, 19.9. So that's what your name is now. I guess you named him after him. Marvin Harrison was though like WR1 out of the rookie class, and he was actually surprisingly a first rounder. Not so surprising if you do scout the rookies, because he's been touted as the best rookie wide receiver in a long time. Maybe since Calvin Johnson, I don't know. But he is that good. It was just memeable because there was like videos of him being thrown the ball to. I mean, not being thrown to, and him being wide open, and just Kyler Murray just running around and ignoring him. That was unfortunate. In terms of your other players, Nico Collins did well. Every time Red Zone turned to the Arizona game, I always saw him running. So he has a respectable score. Jonathan Taylor, respectable, I guess, for a running back. Singletary, okay. Ingram, a measly point. A kicker, average. In terms of your bench, Pearsall was shot through the heart, so he was not going to play for a bit. You got Brooks. I think he's the rookie running back, right? Yeah, from Texas. He's the one who was Bijan Robinson's replacement last year, and now he's moving to Carolina. Just in general, I think the rookie wide receiver class this year was stacked. The running back class, not so much. So the previous year with Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, really strong class last year, not so strong this year. Jerry Judy got you 10 points off the bench, and Zach Moss, solid. I guess we'll come back to that later, but at least for Cincinnati, they look bad. And in terms of them missing a bunch of weapons, and so Moss might be a good play while they're missing a bunch of guys. For James, big time game from him. He got one from Tua Tagovailoa. Decent game. Richardson, though, let me call back to Richardson, though, because he is a beast. He looks like a running back. He runs like a running back, and his arm is stronger than anyone else in the league. Did you see him throw that bomb? It's just like for him, I think it's gonna be a boom or bust type of thing where he's gonna score a bunch of touchdowns, or he's gonna hit these long bombs to Alec Pierce, or you might catch him on some other games where he's just not accurate because he's all tools, but not like the accurate type of pocket passer like some of the others. But definitely a really good fantasy quarterback. Tagovailoa had 21. They had a slow start in Miami. Godwin, really strong game, 18.3. Jamar Chase, man, I didn't even realize he played. I thought he was holding out or something. I guess he did play. Pretty average. Kyron Williams had a decent game despite being held to 50 rushing yards. He did score a touchdown, so that saved you. Montgomery was your big runner for the day, and we enjoyed the Lions Rams game where Montgomery just closed it out. He was the closer, just smashing the ball down through overtime until they were in the end zone and just took the Rams hard out. Kittle had a decent game, 6 points for a tight end. I didn't see huge games from tight ends this week. Pittman did okay. He was not the recipient of Richardson's big bombs, so it's almost like that's what I mean, right? I think Richardson fits his tools fit better with a long bomb threat rather than like a polished receiver like Pittman. But hopefully they can kind of like get together and get some chemistry. And then here, two strong games from your special teams. Your kicker, Aubrey, huge game, 24.3, 193 field goal yards, 3 extra points, and 2 made field goals. And the New Orleans D, they just like destroyed Carolina. This was going to be a lot worse before Carolina salvaged with some points, but you got 15.10. So really big time game from James. Enough for maybe second highest for the week. Off the bench, Brock Purdy was pretty pedestrian. Nick Chubb is out. He's on the PUP. Dowdle, I guess he's your handcuff for Ezekiel, but he didn't do much. Likely, this is the best tight end play of the week, and it happened to be on your bench. So that was the interesting thing, right? When we get to Mark Andrews, you're going to notice that some of the top tier tight ends didn't do so hot this week. Likely was the outlier. Man, I'm spending a lot of time on this. Let's try to fly a little bit faster. Morgan versus Aaron. Poor Morgan for this one round. He drafted high. Amon-Ra St. Brown only got 2.8. I'm still repping the jersey too, though. And then Drake London only 2.5. He was not a recipient of the new quarterback Cook. Pitts seems to be like the better weapon. Najee did decent, but not that great. Brian Robinson was your best runner that you started. Again, another bad tight end game, 1.6. Zay Flowers, 8.3, decent. A good kicking game from your Miami kicker. And the Miami D got 7. They were getting blanked in the first half, so that was interesting, but they did come around. Hurts has a solid quarterback game for you, and then off your bench, Devontae Smith, 11.9, Eckler, 10.32, Ezekiel Elliott, 12.9, so decent. Jordan Addison, only 5 points. Aaron, he had Joe Burrow, and again, we talked about Cincinnati. It's sad to see like the fall of Cincinnati because I feel like we are just watching their championship window close. Ever since like losing out on some of their players and players not being happy, They and being injured, I don't know. They don't look like the dominant team, even though Joe Burrow was an elite quarterback. Brown had a solid game, 119 receiving yards and a touchdown. Devontae Adams looked pretty bad. The I guess Oakland's offense didn't look so hot. Defense was much better than the offense. Kenneth Walker's strong game, 103 rushing yards and a touchdown. Javonte Williams, uh, who you were thinking would be the starting running back, had 23 rushing yards. Sam Laporta, he kind of salvaged it down the end and was one of the more respectable scores, 6.5. DJ Moore, 7.6. Okay. Jake Elliott had a okay kicking game, a good kicking game, and then the Chicago D really strong for you and probably push you over the edge. Even though Morgan had an off week, I wouldn't worry too much Morgan because especially with a guy like St. Brown, he's gonna bounce back for sure. I'm not worried about that. Lad McConkey, big game from him. So he's again, like I said, stacked wide receiver rookie class. McConkey showed one touchdown, 5 catches for 39 yards. He's one of those shifty guys out of Georgia. Brock Bowers had a strong tight end game, 8.8. Was your better tight end on the day. Cortland Sutton, only 5.8. And then Bo Nix, your backup quarterback, outperformed Burrow. So, congrats to Aaron. We can move your D plus to a D. Now we can go on to Brownsville Jets versus mediocre Minions. This is a tough loss for Mike. He had Kyler Murray in the first half. They looked great. They had the Bills on the ropes, and then it flipped in the second half. The heartbreaker is losing Puka Nacua, who got injured early on in the Lions game and then is now out, and he'll be out for a little while. Calvin Ridley, I hate to say I told you so, but every time we get Calvin Ridley, he lets you down. But hang in there because he's going to give you like a 30-point game one of these weeks. But the only problem is you don't know what week it's going to be. Jahmyr Gibbs had a solid game, but you can kind of see it's going to be much better. They kind of the Lions offense was held in check for a good portion of the game. He had a touchdown, 40 rushing yards and 34 receiving yards, but just watch. You can tell he's clearly elite. So 16.5 despite a mediocre game. You have much to look forward to. Rashad White, got you 15.10, really good game. 75 receiving yards, 31 rushing, 31 rushing yards. So a good running back play. Might have got a bit of a sleeper there. I admit he flew under my radar. And then we come to Mark Andrews. We expect bigger things from him, but this is one of those where you are scared when you get these older players who are good, and then you might just happen to catch them when their career falls off. You know, they perform at a high level and then their body shuts down. So here's to hoping that that's not the case with Mark Andrews. He is still an elite tight end considering. Tony Pollard, nice bounce back for him in Tennessee. After an off year in Dallas, he resurfaces in Tennessee to replace Derrick Henry and had a really good game, 82 rushing yards and a tutty. Butker, decent kicking game, and the Cleveland D kind of was a letdown. I don't know if that's probably more. I mean, Dallas did good. They couldn't do anything against Dallas, but Cleveland is a good D. They may have been suffering from just being, what is the word? Demoralized by how inept their quarterback is. Keon Coleman, here's a guy that you may consider moving up, as you have Puka Nacua. He's another rookie wide receiver, more on the big side. Targeted, he got him 4 catches, so that's a good sign. Hope the chemistry increases. Aaron Rodgers, pretty bad game. And then Cole Kmet, 0.9 points. And then Dobbins, big time game from him, 22.4. That may have helped you win this game. Maybe, I mean, you had strong running games. The only other thing you could do is swap him out. Yeah, can't really. It was the receivers that hurt you. You have a strong running back team. Jeremy, our defending champion, Josh Allen, nice pick. You picked him early and he gave you 34.88. So that's vintage Josh Allen. Justin Jefferson, uh, decent game. And he's kind of showing that he's like, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is, he's going to give you some points. Jalen Waddle, again, they were part of a team that started late and then they caught up. Cook, running back, looks like he might be RB1 in Buffalo, so that's a good sign. 71 rushing yards, 32 receiving yards. Raheem Mostert hurt. He got hurt, so 3.5 only. Kyle Pitts, the biggest beneficiary of a better quarterback, 10.10. Tank Dell, a decent game, 7.6. Younghoe Koo, not that great of a kicking game, and your Buffalo D, 5.8. So they kind of lost all of that early on from getting worked by Arizona. Off of your bench, Keenan Allen was kind of a disappointment, and then so it's looking like I don't know what's up with Caleb Williams. Maybe it'll all come around. It's just too early. I need to have more experience to get that offense gelling at some point. This one is I can't figure out how you were able to get him so late. Like why was he ranked so late in our draft? And then sure enough, he scores 31.2. I thought he was like Green Bay's best offensive player, so why? Why was he available to you again, Jeremy? And then Jalen Warren, 3.2 only. And then Herbert had a pretty mediocre game, but they didn't need it. They were running the ball, and they still won. So congrats to Jeremy on that one. Okay, next up. Richie versus Brad. So this is one of those games where, like, Richie had a good game. Excellent game, actually, and he just happened to run into Brad, who had the best score of the week. He picked up Jared Goff. I saw that you picked him up off waivers, and he had 14.28, which is great considering he did not have a good game. If you watched, CD Lamb, 11.4, which if we're gonna do fantasy points per amount of dollars he earned, that's not the greatest. Could be a little bit higher. We expect more from you, CD, after getting paid. Same as your quarterback too. Cooper Kupp balled out, so you ended up with the right Rams receiver. This is the vintage Triple Crown Cooper Kupp, mostly because just the way it went, right? Puka Nacua went down. They couldn't run the ball, and so they just went to Old Faithful, Stafford to Kupp, and that was the only thing that was really working against the Lions. Isaiah Pacheco had a decent game, 16.3. I hear he got cut. Did he get cut? Is Pacheco the one who got cut? Oh no! I'm thinking of the other one. The receiver. Pacheco. I'm sorry. Sorry to put slander on your name, Pacheco. James Conner, 19.4. If there's anything that's consistent year after year in our league, it's Richie having James Conner. For some reason, you always end up with James Conner, and then he's actually balling out this year. 1 rushing touchdown, 50 rushing yards, and 33 receiving yards. Dalton Schultz, nothing much there. Joe Mixon, solid. Huge game, 159 rush yards. That was all of the offense because the receivers weren't really doing anything. And then the Kansas City D didn't do much either. Off of your bench, Love had a strong game, but he got hurt, so he'll be out for a bit. Brandon Ayuk didn't do too much. DeAndre Swift didn't do much. Kirk didn't do much. Fields had a okay game, and that was kind of a surprise, right? Because I thought Russell Wilson won the starting QB job, but Fields got the start. And the strategy for Richie was no kicker. So he wanted these guys on his bench, sacrificing a kicker. You may want to reconsider that because you look at the kicker scores this year. If anything, maybe no defense. For Brad, big time game from him. CJ Stroud, decent. Garrett Wilson, okay. Olave, not good. I like that. You have the Ohio State wide receivers. If you want Jackson Smith and Jigba, you can reunite the core. If you want to trade with me. I think you did trade him, though. Saquon, big time. Huge game. Best running back performance of the week. 2 rushing touchdowns, 109 rushing yards, and a receiving touchdown. So huge game from him. And so, you always have that question, right? This is a good case study because would you rather have a good player? That's not a good case study. A good player on a bad team or an okay player on a good team. In this case, you got a great player on a great team, and you can totally see the difference with Saquon Barkley. And then look at how bad the Giants are doing now. Jacoby Ford, big time game from him, 17.10. Of course, he becomes RB1, with Chubb out. Njoku did a decent game. Jones had a strong game for Minnesota. And then your best player of the week, besides Barkley, was Jake Moody. 5 field goals. Just like kicking the ball and the Jets' butts on Monday night. Cincy D again didn't do so great. Off your bench, Ramondre Stevenson. What a good running game from him. Bodes well because, when you have a brand new coach, you don't know what it's going to look like. If that's the identity of this team, being able to run behind Stevenson and then being able to win, that might be a good thing. Deontay Johnson only 2.9. Oh my goodness. Carolina is going to be one of those black hole teams, like bad team. Doesn't matter how good the players are. That's just how it is. DeAndre Hopkins only 1.3 and Samuel only 2.5. All right. Let's continue on. Mahomes beat Matomies. This is Darren versus Gary. Darren falls short to Gary. Gary pulls out the win. Mahomes had an okay game, but Jaden Daniels, nice pickup here. A running quarterback. If you scouted the draft, you knew he was a running quarterback. And if you were wondering why he was so high on draft boards, this is why. Because he can run touchdowns. He can pass the ball too, but only if they're good weapons. Because keep in mind, his wide receivers were high-picked wide receivers in the first round. Mike Evans, old standby for Darren, 20.6. Cooper, bad game, kind of the Deshaun Watson effect. Bijan Robinson had an okay game. Chuba Hubbard, again, Carolina is a black hole. Travis Kelce, underwhelming game. Rashee Rice had a good game. He outperformed his projections. Justin Tucker, an okay game in San Francisco D, surprisingly not that great, despite them kind of handling the Jets. Off of your bench, Irving had 9.5. Shakir had a decent game, buoyed by that touchdown. Mitchell, Adonai Mitchell, here's another rookie wide receiver. They're going to have to work on that connection with Anthony Richardson. And then Mason, 24.5. The handcuff of CMC, just killing it. That might have saved you in this game, huh? Maybe you play him instead of Chuba Hubbard. Maybe you win that game. Gary, we already talked about Jaden Daniels. Tyreek Hill got arrested before the game. So, understandably, maybe a slow start. But after that, he was uncuffed and then unleashed in the second half, got big scores. Deebo Samuel balled out at the end, kind of put this game out. Zamir White, the biggest reach of the draft. He is a feature back, but it's probably one of those things where the offense needs to mature a bit before they get better. At least consider them maybe better than Carolina. Derrick Henry had an okay game. Actually, it wasn't the greatest game. It was just that touchdown kind of saves that score, yeah? But as long as you can keep getting touchdowns and maybe increase his workload, I don't know. They didn't really use him all that much. Ferguson, only 3 points. McLaurin, only 2.7. McPherson, not a good kicking game. And Baltimore, surprisingly underwhelming D. I guess that's what happens when you play the Kansas City Chiefs. Stephon Diggs. So, he was the best receiver for Houston. So, Houston has a good offense. So, maybe Diggs, maybe you got a little gem here. As he is the newest wide receiver in that room. Tyjae Spears, I think there was some hope that he would take over, but looks like it is what's the name? The old Dallas running backfield. I mean, they gave him touches, he just didn't make the most of it. Chase Brown only 4.1, and then Tolbert only 1.7. But either way, you get the win. Congrats to Gary. And then let's go to me versus Eric. Man, this was all set up perfectly. Going into Monday night, it was like 106, 105, me, Eric, and then it was going to be a head to head Christian McCaffrey versus Brees Hall. Two first round running backs ready to duke it out. And then right before the game, Christian McCaffrey's out. And you know what made it worse? I accept fantasy football, trying to play things. Is they interviewed him. I don't know if you guys saw this. They interviewed him and they said that, when did you know you were going to start? He was like, oh, on Friday. I'm like, wait, what? And so there's this whole there's this whole uproar in like the betting committee, obviously, and the fantasy betting committee about him, the 49ers not providing adequate information about whether a guy's playing or not and messing with everybody's money. Well, anyway, good thing we don't play for money. But what's up, San Francisco? Brad, what is up with your team? Come get your team. I don't know what they're doing down there. Uh, so by default, the win goes to Eric. But anyways, in terms of the scores, Dak Prescott is now the highest played player in the league, and you look at his fantasy points, definitely not worth the fantasy point per dollar production. But they did well, and then the game was out, so they didn't really need him. So at least we know he's still a good player. Jameson Williams, I got some. I reached for him and was rewarded 121 receiving yards and a touchdown. He's super fast. Malik Neighbors, 9.1. Turned out to be, he's one of the rookie wide receivers from LSU. I have the other one too, Brian Thomas, off the bench. And he did a good game too. The only difference is he had a touchdown. So solid games from the LSU receivers. That's what I'm banking on. It's like the next generation of Chase and Justin Jefferson. Devon A-Chain had a solid game, 20.5. He got banged up towards the very end though. Kamara, old faithful, and he did well for me too. Trey McBride only 5.5, but at least he's part of the game. This donut for McCaffrey. Jake Bates only 8.7. The Detroit D only 6.1. Who else off the bench? Caleb Williams didn't do so good. Neither did Jackson Smith and Jigba. George Pickens is like wide receiver 1, but that quarterback situation is so funky that I don't know. That's the other thing. I always end up with George Pickens the same way as Richie ends up with James Conner. For Eric, big time game from Lamar Jackson, to be expected, even though they lost. DK Metcalf underwhelming 4.4. Christian Watson only 8.8, but he was saved by a touchdown. Travis Etienne, decent game. Jacobs, decent game. Taysom Hill, 4.6. Brees Hall, the guy who got you the win, 18.4. He looks really good. And then Dicker, the kicker, really strong game. And then your Dallas D, that might be the strongest defense this week. Off of your bench, T. Higgins was a donut. Odunze is the other rookie wide receiver, only 1.6, but that's going to take some time to mature because there's a lot of young talent there. Odunze and Caleb Williams is supposed to be the duo going forward, but this might be a year or two soon. Benson only 2.6, and then Gus Edwards only 4.4, but so congrats to Eric. Anyways, that's the first week. The only other big news is, let's go to the overview page. This is the first time, other than a swap of draft picks. Wait, this is the wrong page. League overview, not overview. Overview. Is we got a trade. So Brad and Aaron traded, and I have to say, this looks pretty fair. I have to say this is one of the most fair trades, and I can understand why it would be done. So DJ Moore and Sam Laporta goes to Brad, and then Aaron gets Chris Olave and Aaron Jones. Olave is a good wide receiver. Aaron Jones showed that he is clear-cut RB1. That will help Aaron because Aaron doesn't really need a tight end once he has Brock Bowers. And he gives up DJ Moore. So In this, it's the first week, and it looks like Brad is buying low because these guys didn't perform that great. But we don't want to overreact to the first week. Don't overreact to the first week. And a bunch of you are gonna drop some of these guys, like you, Mike. If you don't want Marvin Harrison anymore, I'll take him off your hands. If you think he's gonna keep giving you that 0.2 score, I'll gladly take him. Anyways, that's the first week. See you later.